going on, guys? Alex here with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on another giant mouse knife. This is the Ace Iona V2. So this came in the same package as the Ace Rio. This is coming from Lefty EDC as part of the Lefty EDC passaround group. So Kevin, thank you as always, my friend. Really always appreciate getting in such cool knives, and I really enjoyed the giant mouse package, and hopefully in the future he can get some more stuff in from giant mouse so us smaller channels can get to check out that stuff through Kevin. But I'm gonna say right off the bat, I do, if you guys saw yesterday's video of the Rio review, I was very high on that knife. I love that knife. I think it's arguably giant mouse's best that they've ever done. So I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the Iona V2, but not as not near enough as the Rio. I think right off the bat, if you're looking for a solid workhorse knife that's not super fidgety, that's not, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but has a good blade steel, has good ergos, is comfortable in hand, I think this is a very solid candidate for that. It's definitely, I had the original Iona. I like that knife, but I didn't like it enough to keep it, so I ended up selling it after a while. But I think they took that knife and they made a lot of positive and, changes that were for the better, blade steel, bigger size, so on and so forth. But yeah, so we're going to get right into materials. Right off the bat, it is rocking green canvas micarta, loop over style, deep carry wire pod clip, just like the Rio that is lefty or righty carry. CPM Magna Cut blade. Nice sterile finish right there, but Magna Cut in the Ace. It does have a stone wash. It's kind of a polished stone wash, but it's a nice worker finish, which is really nice. No backspacer, just some standoffs right there. There is no maternal milling, so this knife definitely has a little bit of weight to it compared to the Rio. Of course, you have the crown spine. Well, is it crown spine? No, so this isn't a crown spine compared to the Rio. So the comparison right there, the Rio is on the bottom, the Iona is on the top. It definitely has a thicker blade stock, and it does not have a crown spine, which is intriguing because I thought basically all giant mouses had crown spines. That was one of their calling cards. But if you do have the jimming in the middle right there, which is nice. Double thumb stud or dual thumb studs. You do have a liner lock that is it doesn't look like you have a lot of lock bar access, but the liner lock protrudes a little bit from the scales. So you have a lot better access than you think. You just kind of have to get it in the hand and feel it. But, thicker blade stock, but it comes down to a pretty thin edge. It's a decent enough worker's finish and worker's edge, in my opinion. And on the blade shape, it's kind of a drop point, but has a lot of belly to it and has a nice swedge, not a swedge, but a nice kind of swell built in. Some stats for you guys. Overall length is 7.27 inches. Blade length coming in right at 3 inches. Had to make sure that was not another number besides a 0. Of course, it's Magna Cut. Handle length is 4.34 inches. Liner lock, and it's coming in at 3.4 ounces. So about half an ounce heavier than the Rio. And honestly, it feels closer to 4, compared to the other one. But it's, not a bad weight or anything like that. It just feels a little bit more substantial. It feels a little bit more, a little heavier, which isn't a bad thing. Like I said, it just depends on how you enjoy your knives personally, which is, a testament to all different reviews and reviewers and opinions and so on and so forth. But they also have another version of this. They have the, so it's black linen micarta and green canvas micarta are the two different versions of this. Both the same price, both the same steel, so on and so forth. But next we're going to talk about action. So, another material is this knife is not on bearings, it's on washers. So you're going to have a more slower, kind of hydraulic-y action, as compared to a knife that has bearings, obviously. But put some water on the tab. But next we're going to talk about action. So thumb stud flies right out of there. Middle finger flick. It's not the snappiest on the middle finger flick. The thumb flick, if you guys can hear, definitely has a snappier thwack when it opens. So here is a thumb flick. Flies right out of there. And here's a middle finger flick. Sometimes it even does that, but you can get it most times. didn't again. You definitely have to give it a little bit more oomph to it. That's why for this knife I tend to just stick to the thumb flick, because it really does fly out with some nice authority and a thwack. But you can hear the detent snapping back into place. It's not the best detent in the world. Was this also made in Italy? Yeah, so this was made in Italy. If you guys caught the Rio video, you would have seen or heard me talking about, the comparison between Rio made giant mouse knives and Italian made knives, and how the Rio was made in an Italian factory and how it was really, really good. This knife is also really good. I just think the detent could have been a little bit stiffer because, you're fighting through kind of those washers, and you don't have the most easy, action to get through. So the thumb flick, you get enough force, it just flies right out of there. But the middle finger, that one went. Let's see if I can get 3 in a row. That one went, and then that one went. So you can do it. It just takes a little bit more concentration. And then, of course, you can slow roll it, which is actually pretty good in this knife because you do have that nice slow. And I hate to use the word hydraulic because it's such an overused term, I think, in the knife community, because really it's a lot of, it's what you compare washer knives to. But it honestly does. It's smooth. I guess glassy is another term you can use. But it's nice. I'm not a huge slow roll guy, but it does fire out real well. It does, roll out real nice and satisfy. And of course, here I have the lock bar all the way disengaged. You can do that, but you have to like shake your wrist and stuff like that. It's not generally that fun. So a lot of the times I just use my pointer finger, draw it down, hand it off to my thumb, and there it is back in the handle. So you're not getting a drop shot action, you're not getting a guillotine action. You really can't even shake it. You can, but I mean, you dropping it to there and then like shaking it, it's not very fun. It's not the most satisfying thing. I definitely would just stick to closing with your thumb, using your pointer finger, bringing it down to your thumb, and closed. So, action is good for a washer knife. I've handled better washer knives that at least drop to your thumb, without having to like shake your hand like that? Absolutely. Is it the worst washer, experience I've ever handled? No, it's kind of just middle of the road. Has a good snappy thumb stud, thumb flick, an okay middle finger flick, and a pretty good slow roll. But then the action, of course, you just have to, kind of slow roll it back in per se, like a reverse slow roll. So action is decent, not fantastic, but definitely not, the worst I've ever felt on a washer knife. So next, we're going to talk about Ergos. And I think the Ergos are possibly the best thing about this knife. So you do have a kind of a banana shape. You have a curvature pretty much the whole way back, straight from like here to like here, but then the rest is curved. In here it's curved as well, but it's not really curving much until back here, so this is pretty straight. You do have jimping on the, get a little closer, jimping on the liner lock, and then jimping up top here on the blade. My finger's really itchy for some reason, but I can get all 4 fingers on it. My thumb lands right on the jimping, which is really nice, provides really nice purchase. I don't feel cramped or anything like that. Of course, it's a wire pot clip, so you're not getting much hot spots. You're not getting any sort of discomfort. A wire clip is usually, arguably, in my opinion, the best clip when it comes to Ergos and how the knife feels in your hand. But it's very comfortable. The saber grip works really well. Hammer grip works really well. Pinch grip works pretty good. You can, this would actually work pretty good if you were in like a 7-Eleven Slurpee fight with Kevin on Saturday nights. Just the way the knife is kind of curved. You have a nice landing area for your thumb up here if you had to like slash or stab or do whatever you're doing in a knife fight. But the Micarta has a nice feel to it, very similar to the Rio's Micarta. However, this does not have a texturing to it. You do have kind of pockets milled in here on both sides. So you have a little bit of kind of a different texture, a different grip going on, a little bit more to hang on to when you're gripping this knife. But the Micarta is nice. It's soft. You can tell it's high quality, well done Micarta, which is also a very good perk, I think, when you're, because, we've all handled those $30, $40, $50 knives with Micarta, where the Micarta just feels like a piece of, it's super scratchy and dry, and it's just not very nice Micarta. This is nice Micarta, which is really nice, but, the blade stock comes down to a thin edge, so if you have to do push cuts, which, you get a really good grip on it. And, overall, I think that's the biggest aspect of this knife is how comfortable it is, because I think I stated earlier, to me, this is just a no frills, simple EDC work knife that wants to, cut things, wants to go to work. And, the ergo department is definitely helping that. And it just wants to go through things. And I think that's the biggest pro of this knife, in my opinion, is the ergo experience and how comfortable it is, when you're getting a nice full 4-finger grip on it. So, definitely have to give that, some applause, and I would give it a 10 out of 10. So next we're going to move into Carrie. Carrie's also good. It states on here that it's 3.4 ounces. I think it seems a little bit heavier, but still nothing, it's not going to be a pocket brick or anything like that. It's not super duper heavy. I feel like they could have just done some internal milling on the nested liners. Maybe would have brought it down to closer to 3 ounces, and I think that would have really made a difference. But who am I? I'm just rambling on the internet. Drinking my strawberry sparkling water. But drops in your pocket. Of course, you have the wire clip. Comes up to about here. You have just a little bit sticking up out of your pocket, so that's really nice. It works very well in that regard. But drops that in your pocket. You have nothing here besides, I can't talk today. Nothing here besides micarta, no flipper tab, no jimping, anything like that. So you have nothing to risk catching your hand on anything when you're going past it for change, chapstick, coins, whatever it may be. You have nothing to worry about catching it on and possibly pulling the knife up out. But carries very well. I carried this in khakis a few times, and I've carried it in gym shorts a few times. Didn't carry it nearly as much as the Rio because I like, obviously, the Rio quite a bit better. But overall, it does carry very well. It's not a huge size. The blade length is right around, right out 3 inches. So it's not, super duper big. Here's a size comparison to the Rio. You guys can see the blade looks pretty similar, but it is shorter, and it's just because it has a nice, nice long tip on the Rio. But Carrie, you can switch it to Lefty if you want. So Carrie overall is pretty good. No complaints in the Carrie department. I'm trying to think of something to complain about besides, the washer knife, the washer action, which really that's not even a complaint. It's just, not something, and I've even gotten used to washer knives, but it's just not something that I am super sold on with this knife. But yeah, so that leads me to my final category of price point and what I recommend this knife. So I think that if you are a fan of how it looks and you are okay with a hydraulic-y washer style action, then I think this knife will work for you very well. And I also think that if you were looking for a good work knife, I don't think you could go wrong with this. If you're looking for something just to pull out of your pocket, flick open, make some cuts, go like that and put it back in your pocket and go about your day, I really don't think you can go wrong with this. You're getting Magna Cut, which is nice, really nice micarta, a nice wire clip that works very well, functions very well. Just a great ergonomic experience. It's basically the banana grip, or could be kind of a a pistol grip, or a shotgun grip, locked in your hands. So that's very nice. Just overall a really good, simple, no frills, just simple EDC. And that's kind of how I always felt about the original Iona 2, is it was just, that one had, well, they made some with some aluminum scales, but the one I had the Anso pattern FRN, which I thought was pretty nice. I thought that was one of the nicer FRN sets of scales that I've ever handled before. And it had M390. And that knife was sub $300. Brand new, it was $99 or $100, but you could find it for sale for less than that. And I think that was an absolute steal. Now this is going for $195, which I don't know. They obviously made improvements on this knife, bigger size, better micarta, other things like that, different blade steel, so on and so forth. But I don't know if I see the justification in raising the price over $100, because all along, that was kind of one of the Iona's big sticking points and big drawing in points was, hey, you can get an M390 knife for sub $100. And at that time when it first came out, that was really, really cool for the knife world. I feel like you're able to get more, you're able to get that nowadays for around that price point, but I still think that's a very, very good value. So I don't know. I don't think $195 for this is too high, because you're pretty much getting the same materials that you are in the Rio. And I said that I think the Rio is a fantastic value. And of course, you can use someone's code because it is in stock on White Mountain Knives. So if you use Kevin's code, you get basically 20 bucks off, drops it down to $175. I think that's perfectly adequate. You know, 195 is even personally adequate because, again, I said it's really good for this. So theoretically, it should be good for this because it has the same blade steel, magnet cut. It has the same handles, you know, scales, micarta, lino lock, you know, clip. The only thing that's different is this is on washers and this is on bearings. So really you can't put that much stock into something like that. So I don't know. I don't think it's bad for that price, but I think, you know, when you had a product that was under $100 brand new, it was still a premium steel in M390. I feel like I'm not seeing the justification to jump it up $100 to almost $200. You know, if the Iona V1 never existed and this came out and it was $195, I probably would, you know, I'd be perfectly fine with that. I wouldn't have anything to compare it to, but it's just because I had that comparison. I don't see a justification in spending or jumping $100 to $195. I think maybe 150 or 160, a little bit better pricing for this, but that's just me. But at the end of the day, 195. Again, when you're comparing the Rio to the Iona and vice versa, it's the same materials except for bearings in one knife and washers in the other. So theoretically, if I think one knife is a good value, I should think the other knife is a good value. So I'm a little bit torn on that, but I would have to, you know, actually, what do you guys think about it? Leave a comment down below. You know, do you think it's worth $195? Are you kind of in agreement with me where you don't think it's a bad value for that price, but you just don't see the justification in jumping up $100 from the old version? I would love to hear what you guys have to say. It's definitely, I kind of just pops in my mind. I really didn't think about it for a while like that, but now that I'm on it, I'm just, you know, kind of wondering about it. So, but, you know, I think if you like the knife, if you like the way it looks, if you're a fan of the aesthetics and you don't mind a washer style knife and you're looking for a work knife, I can recommend it. It's a good knife at the end of the day, really well made, good materials, good quality control, good ergos, good, you know, a lot of good things about it. So I really can't complain too much. I just kind of, you know, comparing the two, and that's just kind of how my brain works. But yeah, so this was my full review on the Giant Mouse Knives Ace Iona V2. Huge shout out to Kevin over at Lefty EDC for allowing us to check it out via the Lefty passaround group. And yeah, so I'm gonna wrap this up now. I feel like I've gotten my point across to you guys. I feel like I've rambled and ranted and raved and done all the things, you know, enough for you to get a good solid opinion on the Iona V2. So I'm gonna wrap it up now, but thank you guys again so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every single one of you guys. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your morning, day, evening, night, whenever you're watching this, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.